Hello, welcome to another episode of Backwoods Progression with me, Brown Kinko, where I go through my backyard, and a lot of it is woods. So, it came to me today that the reason I stopped doing a thing. So, last year I was incredibly active about clearing up this space, making it nicer, doing a lot with it. I had incredibly high hopes for this to become something better. And over this past year, there's been a lot of disasters in the world. There's been a lot going on. So it's made it harder, for sure, to do more outside because of the smoke, because of the fires, because of just lack of will. Depression has been incredibly big. But moreover, I realized there was another thing at play. Somewhere in my head, let me back up. When I was going to school, I was sick often. Won't get into that, but it made me focus on the school aspect of school. I was doing the work, I was knowing the info, I did well on the tests, but that's it. My social relationships suffered. I didn't fit in or really do well with any of the cliques or social groups. Didn't date in high school, not like that. And it misses the point. So honestly, over time I've realized school is not made to teach you anything. You hardly use so much of what you learn in school. What it does do is put you into a situation where you have your peers and you're enduring hardship and you're being told to do something hard and challenging every single day. And that's supposed to bring you together as a community. But it doesn't. And especially not the way that I went through school. I got no community, no friends. Like, I had a big scuffle with my friends my senior year, so I lost all of them. So I walked out of school having gained absolutely nothing because they changed some rules, so I had to get a GED. But didn't matter. I got a job, I did the thing. The job was in a large business, but a small office with no one in my peer group. So there was never any chance for any kind of bonding. All of the social interactions I've had in my life, I've had to engineer myself. I went to dances at different schools. I did a lot of online dating. But the point of this story is that when you realize you've missed the point, when you realize that you're doing the work of a community by yourself, things change. It's a lot harder to swallow, it's a lot harder to keep up. And for the most part, society now is asking the individual to do the work of a community. For even just the smallest of needs, paying for housing and food and upkeep. And that's shattering. the depression makes a lot of sense. The concept that we're given a lot on our plate, but nothing to clean it. It's how I feel about this space. My whole family, all of my life, has fixed up this place, or attempted to. Not this section, this is me, but with the hopes of showing it to somebody, with the hopes of having people over for drinks, or hanging out, or looking at a bonfire, for hangouts, for community. Community never attained, never granted. And as time goes on, it feels like it may never come. So I wonder if Walden, or the guy who wrote Walden, thought about that when he escaped to the woods, when he escaped community. Did he realize the emptiness, the lack thereof? The beauty of nature is awe-inspiring, but it further reinforces every step of the way. Every other creature has community in some sense. The birds have flocks together. The ants have a whole colony. Deer stay in little packs to help survive. Wolves stay in packs to hunt. The rest of the world understands the importance of friends and comrades and family. But in this capitalistic nightmare, we've been granted no such favor. We are supposed to make these communities and kindnesses ourselves, to band together as unions only to be busted. We join into families who hate us for our differing opinions, which can be as small as if you like the team with the red jerseys or the team with the blue jerseys. It's so silly. It's amazing how polarized we are. It's so hard to live in this world. It mirrors that school concept of you are by yourself. You do these things to survive, to succeed in this world. Can you do it? Can you fit in? Will you rebel? Are you going to be unfit for this society we've created that does not help you, that does not make life any easier? I find that when you understand your goals, when you understand your true motivation, things can change greatly. But getting to that point, to break down all of the stuff that's been taught with subtext, it truly changes your perception of the world. Last year when I was building this place up, and the years before, it was always mildly with the thought of, I wonder if I could ever get a LARP back here. I wonder if I could bring my community to this point. I wonder if people visit, would they want to see it? Do they care? It's so different from normal life. It's so different from the rat race. You get to experience nature in all of its giving glory. Understand that you're part of an ecosystem. But it still doesn't make sense to me, personally, how we lived before we modernized. How did we survive in such areas? What was our role? What was our diet? What did we look like? How were we meant to deal with the elements and all of their different aspects? It comes to my mind about, not specifically, but the new season of Baki definitely hits on it. They have this prehistoric man who's been frozen in ice, cryogenically frozen, comes back to life and is just like the greatest fighter ever. So it's interesting to me what we would have had to do to survive, what we would have looked like, how we would have been without TV, without radio, without work, without chairs. How would we spend our time? How much time of the day would we spend foraging or hunting or farming? What does it all look like? I know for certain it wasn't solo. People take until the year 25-ish to have their brains fully formed. That's so vastly different from every other species in wildlife. It hits home in a lot of different spaces. It's so curious. And there are native peoples, there are people who are still living in jungles and other spaces that have been ignored by society. And I find it so interesting, so odd that we are so far from them. We are weak. We are actively making our lives harder. We are distracting ourselves rather than bettering ourselves. Because we've been put through such a hellish nightmare, we can only stand to recover. We can't work on ourselves or make anything better when we are constantly pushed to our limit. And that hits home for neurodivergent people even more than the neuronormative. It's one of those things where I can't help but wonder, what are we doing? Why? What why haven't we reached utopia yet? We are one of the richest nations on the planet, and we have overwhelming poverty and overwhelming rich. It stands to reason that people want to do work to earn their living. Unfortunately, that's not how it works anymore. So, I was on social media and I saw a post about what did the 1950s have that we don't have today? And I think it was meant as a tongue-in-cheek, like, make America great again. But the thing they had back in the day that we don't have today was the rich had a 91% tax rate. If that doesn't shake you to your core on thinking it, like, I feel like that small change, I say small, but ignore, that change would dramatically affect everybody. And not in the trickle-down way that I think about often, that they were trying to say, Reagan, all that jazz. This whole concept of if the rich have more money, then they'll use it to make better businesses and there'll be more jobs. Like, well, at what point do we say this didn't work? The rich need to pay their share. They need to stop putting their money into intangible funds, escaping and skirting the system at hand. If the average person works a job, gets all of their funds, puts it into a car, and that car breaks, what happens? They're just bankrupt. They have nothing. They messed up. If a corporation does it, they get to write that off. And it's treated as a zero, so they get all of that tax money back. It's unscrupulous. We live in a world of multiple different rule sets, and it's unbearable. I did trim this trail, by the way, actually speaking on some of the things I did, but it was one day of excessive work. It was very hot, but I was very determined to do the things that I had said last week. I was incensed to figure out why I had changed in my desire to do these things so much, aside from the depression. Like, why was I not going out in doing these things? Because I too have tried to stick to and find community. I've been trying to be more active on Discord, trying to engage with the people who do still care, trying to have my own little slice of life instead of just toiling out there. It has left me behind on my podcasts, so there was that aspect to it. It was nice to get out, to listen to the podcast, to catch up on things. And truly, it felt good to be doing it. but it was exhausting. And hard work just to even get to the spaces that I wanted to get to. And I feel like when I lost the tool to make that easier, things changed. Now that I have that tool back, it's quite interesting. It's quite the position I've put myself into. So now I can resume. Now I can go back out and make life easier. But there's still the will. I still have to want to do it. I still have to get out there and actually do it. There's a desire to work with community, to figure out what's going on, to figure out life. It's problems. I've been thinking a lot about the eunuchs of ancient times. People had their genitals removed to focus their minds and, cut off any ancestry, but it gave them a focus without hormones involved. It cleared their minds of a lot of things. And it creates a concept that we don't often get into, that we are animals. We are driven by our desires. Coming up, I made a statement that I would break this, and I did. So I'm not going to trip there anymore, hopefully. But I feel like this whole generation, everyone who lived through the pandemic, got to see varied levels of trauma, got to see, got to peel back a little bit of the societal cover. It's it's one of those situations where I don't know if I'm better or worse for it. I don't know where we're going or what life is anymore. I wonder about this person I used to have a major problem with. I saw them as a leech. They had no license. They lived in rural New York, just like I do. But they constantly leeched off of people. They had their partner. They had their friends. They would bum rides. They would, in what I felt, use all of these different people and their kindness. And I wonder if in my heart of hearts I was jealous or in some way anxious about ever being that, because I would be so afraid. I grew up with the fear of inconveniencing people because I had to raise myself. It's part of that whole latchkey kid era. Parents were working, they needed to do the whole nuclear family thing. So there wasn't any seeing them, there wasn't any, like, actual care or instruction. It was just come home, figure it out. If you're hungry, make some food. I wonder. There have been very few instances in my life where I've been cared for. I have partners to thank for understanding what that means. But for the most part, it's been a cold world for me. So having that community, having that desire, that help, it truly changes the way we think about how to live our lives. I feel like they may have been an extreme, which, you know, like, I can understand bumming a ride here and there, but when you work a job, when you, like, are generally rude and expectant of people, I can't tolerate that. I couldn't. It was insufferable. But I always strove for kindness. But I never felt more petty than in the moments I was around them. Amazing, the gods have lessons for us all, and they don't always come in written form. Sometimes they're people. It's a common ask to escape the modern world into the forests, to be reclaimed like an abandoned building. Unfortunately, it's not so easy. It's not. It's not like the community is also in the forest. Hey, little blue jay. My favorite of the, like, outcast corvid. It's not my favorite corvid, but it's just, I love the fact that they are corvids. Nature is so strange. The berries we just walked past are inedible, but boy do they look like little golden or red orbs of tastiness. I imagine they're pretty sour, but all the same, birds love them. Unfortunately, people that tried to eat them would not feel well. They would likely retch. It's things like that. There's so much of our world that we have no concept of. What trees, what plants, what is edible, what isn't. We are children walking through this world with a semblance of control. There is so little that we inherently know or are taught to actually survive in this world. But that's enough for today. Hope y'all have enjoyed this little walk and this little talk and mild meditation for me about community. So, thank y'all for watching. Remember to like, follow, subscribe, do the comment thing below, and until next time, have a better day.